Welcome to another edition of Dream Up from KBF 88.3 FM in Little Rock, nationally syndicated and internationally streamed. It's the show where everyone has a story of achieving their dream, from celebrities to experts to average Joes and Janes. Today, our very special guest is world-class magician and motivational speaker, John Kippen.
Oh, love John Kippen. He's a friend of mine. Todd, you've met him, and what a performer he is, right?
Oh, he wowed me. I can't wait for everybody to hear his story. This guy is an amazing world-class magician. It is going to be a blast to talk to him.
Awesome. So I'm one of your co-hosts, Carl Double Portion Kozlowski, because I'm supersized. I want a double portion of blessings from the Lord. And I'm coming to you from Little Rock and from Hollywood, as always.
Ron, the mirthful married man, Pearson, feeling good today. And with us is from Dallas, Texas.
Big ticket Todd Turner, originally from East Texas. Todd Turner from Tyler, Texas.
Where does Big Ticket come from, Todd? Where does Big Ticket come from?
You know, that was given to me on a broadcasting gig, and I'm not sure, but I don't
even
have
know
any big tickets. I mean, I get tickets, but I don't know where the big ticket comes from.
I know the Cop and Gunner. Yeah, I can make sure you get a big ticket next time you drive through.
It's stuck all these years. I guess I'm used to it now.
Yeah. Hey guys, I just wanted to say I was having a hard time getting focused for the show today because of my ADHD's kicking in. I just kept procrastinating, and ADHD people are real big on procrastination. It seems like we're lazy people, but that's not true. If I was to describe it, it's more like mental constipation, right? There's a lot going on in there, and it's ready to go. It's just difficult to get it out, right? Once you get started, it's a huge relief. Sometimes it comes out regular. Sometimes it comes out complete mess with a lot of cleaning. And there's the occasional brain fart. But actually, sometimes I just have to sit there for a long time with the kids banging on the door. But basically, mental constipation got in my way today. But I'm really excited about the show because it finally came out and I finally got my work done, and I'm excited about what we're doing today. How about you guys?
Well, in the theme of this,
I've always thought you're full of crap, so there you go.
Yeah, in the theme of this, let me go put on my boots so we can finish the show.
Yeah. I'll call the janitor over from Walmart to clean up the mess. Woo.
I love it. Well,
yeah, so
quote of the day, boys.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The one I got for today seems just really simple. It seems really simple, but it's actually kind of profound when you think about it. The statement is, what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Who is that by? Any guesses? You'll never guess it, but try and guess.
Gandhi.
Oh, that's a good guess.
Malcolm X.
That's another good guess.
Or Benjamin Franklin. This is the three I see from the internet all the time. They say everything.
I say Elvis Presley.
Ooh. Carl's swinging up the entertainment stream. No, it's actually Jane Goodall.
Oh, really?
So,
wow.
Yeah, I guess the difference she decided to make was with some silverback gorillas. Should I change little orphans' lives? No, I'm going to change the silverback gorillas' life.
Reread it one more time now that I know who said it.
What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. I actually love that statement.
So she poured into something. She found what she wanted to do, and she poured into it.
She did. She saved a dying species, right? She's pretty amazing. So
yeah, that's worth the coffee mug right there.
I'm gonna go with the snapback trucker hat with that one.
It would go the silverback gorilla on a snapback hat.
Yeah,
that's good. I can see a hat with a gorilla on the top with that phrase coming out of the side of it. It would sell millions.
Todd, your hair's getting a little bit gray there, so you could be a silverback.
Well,
just sitting on the radio today.
If you think the gray on the front, just wait till I take my shirt off and you'll see how silverback we really are here.
Yeah, just keep it to the shirt region, please. Thank you. no
No
need to see the
comment.
drapes, especially on my part.
Hey, I love that quote, and I have a feeling that quote's going to come back several times today through our show. Go ahead, Carl. Let's roll this baby.
All right, so every week we like to take a look at a couple of news stories that reflect somebody achieving or blowing a dream. And so for now, the news. All right, so last week there was, this would be for anybody listening in the future, like they're in space, or if you're just discovering us a year later, this is a week after the big 2021 elections in which Virginia was flipped completely to the Republican Party. But in New Jersey, something interesting happened. They almost won the governorship, but then there was a conservative truck driver, and his name was Edward Durr, which Saturday Night Live noted as the state motto of New Jersey. But Edward Durr was a truck driver, and he was running to unseat the state Senate president, a guy named Steve Sweeney. And he managed to knock the guy out of his powerful post while spending only $153 in the primary. Ron noted that he spent like $8,000 in the general election, but hey, you know what? Most of the news was focusing on the $153 in the primary. It just shows, you know, that I guess it is possible to still make it as an average citizen who can achieve anything in America. What do you think?
Well, I actually think it goes back to the quote of the day. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. I love it. Let's see. I could get 8.5 months of premium Netflix, or I could change the state of New Jersey. I could get Starbucks cup of coffee every day for 15 days, or I could change the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
I could put count them, 2 tanks of gas in my car, or I could change the state of New Jersey. I love it. It's a win for the little guy. That other guy had the longest serving senator, and it's time to get the government back to of the people, by the people, and for the people. My gosh, I just love it. He's no dummy, you know. This guy saw a weakness in the district, and he stepped up and did it himself. Wow. Part of the article talked about how he noticed that that guy never got even half of the district to vote for him, not any time. So he thought, boy, if I can get undecided people, and I think he walked and knocked on doors and talked to people, and that's amazing. 150.
Yeah, they said that the quote on that was that he's a numbers guy. He looked at a lot of numbers over the years, and he found that the district had 150,000 voters, and the guy who had won the state senator president had never had more than 32,000 votes. And so he decided, like you said, if he could get even half the district, that means if he can't get half the district, there was a big wide opening. I guess because so many candidates run that it's you know, like a plurality needs to win rather than a majority.
Maybe you know, I think there's an apathy as well, and I go ahead, Todd.
Well, I think people are frustrated. I'm proud of this guy for spending less and doing something so monumental, but I really think people are frustrated. It reminded me, I used to coach Little League, and we had a horrible center fielder. He was so bad. I remember telling the other coaches, I think
his last name Turner?
Nope. I think we just need to put a trash can out there, because with the trash can, we at least have a chance to catch a fly ball. And so I think people are just so tired of their senators and their representatives not doing anything that they vote for anybody. I mean, this guy didn't put any effort in. They put him in. People are at least thinking, hey, a trash can's better than nothing.
You know, that's true, but I think he was more than that. You said he didn't put any effort. The article talks about he put a lot of effort in. I think he just didn't put any money in because he didn't really necessarily have it. Right. And you have all these political people that make their livings being prognosticators. Give me this much money and I'll coach you through, and I'll be, you know, you have campaign managers and you have media people, and all these campaign people hire all these people and spend a fortune. And then this guy went in who has no experience. He's a truck driver and outsmarted them all. I think it's genius, really.
Well, he spent $150 to get in. Now I need to spend $150 for a suit.
Well, he literally, I saw one interview, I think he was on Tucker Carlson, and they asked him, what's your agenda? And he said, I have no idea. He just knew that guy needed to go.
Yeah.
And so he said, I will do the will of the people. So you call my office, that kind of thing. So
I
Good
like
for
it.
him.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
That's cool.
All right. Well,
Talk about a dream up. Honestly, talk about a dream up story. Like that is literally going after it yourself, and man, he hit it out of the park. That's
Yeah.
just so cool. I love it.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on to our second story. Lead story 2, electric Boogaloo. Okay. So National Park Rangers say they found a man who hit a baseball into the Grand Canyon. The unidentified man, well, I don't know why they don't identify him. It's not like he, committed, a murder or something, was fulfilling a lifelong wish to smash a homer into the biggest abyss on the planet. But Rangers had security footage of the occurrence and incredibly tracked the man down, and he faces possible charges, although no one knows actually what to charge him with. Rangers say that this is like littering, and that if a hard ball flies far and fast into the canyon, it could either damage, hurt hikers or wildlife, or even set off a major rock slide. What say you guys?
Carl, I'm laughing at the irony of this. So $100,000 of wires, towers, security cameras is all worried about a baseball, quote unquote, junking up nature. Like, it's just the funniest thing. They caught him with $100,000 of equipment trashing the place, but they're worried about one little baseball sitting at the bottom of the river. It's just irony at its best.
Hey,
I raised the question of why they didn't name him. I just realized the reason they don't name him in the articles is they're depriving him of the one thing that he wanted. Even if they named him, even if he gets criminally charged in some way, he still gets the bragging rights. Says, that's right, I did that. If they don't name him, they're probably hurting him more than any punishment ever could.
Hey, I personally love this guy. He goes after his dreams, but probably important that you realize that your dream doesn't involve a felony when you start. That's probably a good barometer to do.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine sitting in jail? What did you do? Yeah, well, I stabbed a lady who wouldn't give me her purse. What did you do? Well, I hit a baseball into the Grand Canyon.
I missed the part about that being his dream. I was trying to figure out what kind of childhood trauma this guy had, where his therapist's solution was go hit a ball into the Grand Canyon and rid yourself of all your childhood problems.
Right. He could have just gone to Iowa and found the Field of Dreams place and tried to park it into the cornfield. That's what he probably should have done. But
did you notice, Rod, that he literally, I just assumed the guy was sitting there watching the Grand Canyon and he just thought, I'm going to run to my car and go grab a bat and a ball. Not only was it planned, it said he put it on a tee. He didn't even have the coordination maybe to throw it up in the air and hit it. He literally brought a tee out and methodically hit it out into the abyss. It's great.
And what if he misswung and it kind of just dribbled into the canyon and he still goes to jail?
The one ball that he had, it was a blooper single.
Yeah.
Here's the overall thing I have to say. Well, it's not the overall, but sometimes dreams have consequences. Literally, like when my wife has a dream where I said or did something crazy, I pay for it for the next day. So dreams have consequences. Remember that. We should remember that for Dream Up. Should be a regular thing we put in. Here's an interesting thought, though. He went after an actual achievable dream, which I think is kind of important. He kind of went after it and made it's achievable. What do you guys think about that? Like in my high school yearbook, when it said ambition, everybody put, well, I want to be a doctor. I want to do this. Mine was, I want to play the main stage at Caesar's Palace, which I did by my time I was 29 years old. So wow. I hit my dream at 29. Achievable. It was not hard to, it was a very difficult dream to achieve, but shoot, I did it in 12 years after I graduated, right? I
You
graduated.
know,
Wow, that's great.
I hear what you're saying. It's just in my mind, if it's a dream, it needs to be monumental. Like your dream can't be, I'm going to chew gum in the city library. I mean, it's got to be a little bit.
Well, hit a ball into the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
look,
what I'm saying.
so mine was achieved at 29. Do you not think I've had 25 more dreams since then?
True. They're baby
Yeah.
step dreams, right? Find your
Yeah.
dream and move on.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to hit a golf ball into the ocean next.
I mean, honestly, what I'm really trying to get at is what's more important, to shoot for something so monumental that you just never really put effort into it daily at all, because it's like, okay, yeah, that's my dream, but it's never going to happen. You know, my dream is to own a big mansion on the beach in Hawaii, but I'm, working at the grocery store and not doing anything, because it's too unachievable. I mean, honestly, it's a valuable.
You need wins along the way. If your dreams take decades, you're going to get frustrated and you may never reach them. But to your point, yeah, I believe smaller goals to give you wins motivate you for the bigger goals.
What was
right.
what's been your dream in your life from when you were young, Todd?
Well, just looking this good has been really hard for me, but I've managed to figure out a way to do it.
I said achievable dream.
Okay, yeah, well, it's really funny with me. I think with me, I'm really motivated by people and helping people. Like the more people I help with my job, which I see as my ministry, is a goal. Like I get totally satisfied by my career of not only what I have a career that was my dream, but each day in the career literally are my small wins, where I am very happy that I have moved the needle for a client. It truly brings me joy. So I guess mine is a little bit backwards of what you're saying. I had a goal to have a career that gets me out of bed and motivates me, and then each day is my next win is putting smiles on their faces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually does. Carl, what about you? What was your dream as a kid?
Well, I mean, my dream was to be a writer, and I achieved what I wanted to do. I mean, I wish I had played at a slightly higher level consistently. I got into Esquire 3 times and a GQ once, and that's as big as it gets. But I wish I had figured out how to do it consistently, and make that be, oh, that's what I did, instead of Pasadena Weekly. But I mean, I still found a way.
But you're a great writer. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah. But I mean, what's funny? I was thinking that one other weird dream I had was I always wanted to be like David Letterman. And the thing I loved about David Letterman the most was him making sarcastic announcements on bullhorns across New York City. Yeah. And then I finally achieved that dream this year over the loudspeakers at Walmart. I get to make 5 sarcastic announcements every night. And then I send them to TikTok, and we're coming up on 200,000 views on TikTok now. And,
awesome.
It's just crazy that, and people say, how do you keep thinking of ideas every night? But it's like when I hear people howling that I can't even see, and they're in the various aisles of the store, and you just hear people guffawing, it's the awesome. It's better than being in a club sometimes.
So here's another question. Like, you're one of the best writers I know in terms of, I can only say that from personal experience. Like, I've had hundreds of articles written on me, and yours was by far the best. You captured a pretty complex list of things to get into one article, and you did it seamlessly and told the story well. And I don't see a lot of writers pulling that off. So my question to both of you is, you measured success by, I got into Esquire and I got into GQ, and I know you've done your movie reviews go national and go in tons of different publications and whatnot. And you were a great writer here in LA, in Pasadena, for a long time, but you're judging it by other people's vision of you're putting it on a totem pole. That's a notch. When the reality is success being a great writer, or is success what accolades you get. In other words,
Yeah,
you could be a great actor, but did you win the trophy? Oh, I got 3 Oscars. Or but there's several actors that are probably better than a lot of the Oscar winners that have
Yeah.
never gotten them. So
What could,
Well, I've
could
got
I
a good answer
rephrase
for
your
that, but-
question? I heard this
Yeah.
the other day about the NBA. Would you rather be Charles Barkley and one of the top 20 best basketball players of all time, or would you rather be Robert Ory, who may have won 3 or 4 championships, but he wasn't the best? But his career was defined by trophies, where Barkley is defined by being a better player. And if you want me to answer that question, I think I'd rather be Charles Barkley, is I'd rather not win the accolades, but be the best version of myself I could be, and whatever that brings is what it brings.
That's a good point. Well, I remember one time when I was running my podcast business, Radio Titans, we maybe hadn't even started doing our own business yet. We were just running a podcast called Grand Theft Audio, and one of our guests was this comedy actor named Matt Walsh from Upright Citizens Brigade, and he's been, I think, Emmy nominated for HBO's Veep since then. And I said, boy, I just wish I could feel successful someday. And he goes, wait, you don't feel successful already? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I mean, I'm here and all these other people keep coming every week. And he goes, who cares how big, whether it gets, but you're getting major people to show up and respect what you do. And so what it taught me to think, appreciate even whatever level you're at, to appreciate, hey, as long as you're doing it, sometimes that's what matters. If you're doing what you want.
yeah, I think it goes back to our quote on diligence, right? Work is doing it. What was the next phrase? He was doing it every day. Consistency is doing it every day, and diligence is doing it well every day. And I think when you're diligent, it just pays off. When you do what you do well every day and try and push for excellence, it really pays off in the long run. Whether other people recognize it or not, I think really, I don't know.
Well, let's turn that back into the Goodall quote that you mentioned earlier. Do you think she would have done what she did? I mean, there's probably not too many trophies out there to save gorillas, right? I mean, she was doing it for the passion of it. And it turned out, I think her life work gave her a lot of accolades, but she didn't go in for the accolades. She went in for the purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, boys.
Hey guys, I think we need to get to our guest this week. So now our guest. So Ron, who's our guest?
I am so excited to bring this guy in. He's been a friend of mine for several years. World-class magician that I met at the Magic Castle. He's also a motivational speaker, which we'll get to in a little bit, which is amazing. And he's just a documentary winner in the Doc LA Film Festival against hundreds of documentaries. He just won, got his trophy from Jamie Lee Curtis. Wow. Oh my goodness. His message is being different is your superpower. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, world-class magician, John Kippen.
All right.
Thank you, guys. What a warm welcome.
Well, let me just kind of go back to how we met. So I'm a comedian and a juggler. And so I've been hanging at the castle for years and was away for a long time. I hung out in my young 20s and started coming back several years back and hanging out a lot. And so I see this guy who's doing close up around, and I go up and talk to him. And my friend, for those of you in radio land, his face is paralyzed on half of his face. So can't blink, can't smile, can't speak out of that side of his face, has kind of a bit of a droop to it. But love is magic, and what a great personality and great guy. And we kind of become friends. And I talked to him about his face one day, and he goes, yeah, I had this tumor in my ear called an acoustic neuroma. Well, it turns out I had the same thing as a child. He's one of only 2 other people that I've met in my life that have had the same thing that I've had. And I felt blessed enough to not have lost the right side of my face. But John's been through the same thing as me. So not only does he not have the use of the right of actually for him, it's the left side of his face, I believe. But he is also deaf in one ear, as I am, and I've lost a ton of hearing in the other ear. And he and I have so many similarities in health and in profession.
This is why y'all get along so well. You can't hear each other.
What?
This is starting to make sense.
But it is funny, you know, when we sit at one of the bar stools at the castle, we have to remind each other which is our good ear. So otherwise, the conversation really doesn't
It doesn't take
go
off.
anywhere. You know?
So John, let's just get into your life, because your story really fits our show so well. It's such a story of overcoming, such a story of perseverance, and it's such a story of self-revelation. Let's just start from the beginning, man. You grew up in LA, here in the San Fernando Valley, and tell us about your life.
Yeah, I grew up as only child to two attorneys. And
Only child's got to be tough, by the way. What'd you do? Beat yourself up, or how did that work out?
you know, I have a great imagination, so I never had an issue entertaining myself.
Okay, and
so,
how about attorneys as parents? Is that they're quite big achievers there? Does that play anything in your life?
well, I think it was the reason why I never liked law and decided not to become an attorney.
What did they say when you said, "I'm going to be a magician"?
You know, they were really supportive. They just wanted me to be successful in whatever I chose to do and be happy.
Oh, that's great.
Well, that's nice.
So you grew up in, so you did you do any magic as a kid?
Yeah, I learned magic from my uncle when I was 5 or 6 years old. That's when I got bit by the magic bug. And I did it through elementary school. And then in high school, I got a summer job at a local magic shop called Magic Emporium, where I would go in and pretty much I'd go every weekend to just hang out. And after a couple of years of doing that, they gave me a job.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, and then I went to college and kind of put magic on the shelf, as many of us do when we get a direction we want to go. And, but magic always kind of came back in my life. You know, it was in and out. In college, I got the pleasure of working with a very famous magician, Doug Henning. And I was
world famous magician. Like, he changed magic and brought it, you know, as almost as much as Siegfried and Roy did for magic. I'd put him in that caliber of bringing magic to the masses that people really got excited about seeing. Wouldn't you put him in that level?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in charge of the campus theater at Cal State Northridge, and he rented the theater out on it for a month one summer to rehearse a show he was taking on the road, and I got to be his assistant for a month, which was just an amazing experience.
Did you have long hair and a crazy mustache like he did?
No. I'm short hair and but he was very nice, very giving, very out there though. Born
What was his? Oh, it's an illusion. He would always go, "It's an illusion."
illusion. Yeah.
Yeah. He really sold a character that was really refreshing at the time, to be honest. It's kind of over the top, crazy.
Well, the character was him. You know, he was with his wife, Debbie, and they would refer to each other as Dougie Wuggy and Debbie Webby when the cameras were off. So,
Wow.
very spiritual, very out there. I'm not sure what drug that they were on, but
I'm sure they were on something, but he was kind of, to be honest, from remembering it, he was pretty refreshing. And I was performing when he was big. I was street performing in doing shows around Washington State, and so I was already a performer in an allied art as a juggler, right? And I just remember him. I bought tickets to go see him at the big theater. I spent a fortune on the seats and loved the show and just really liked what he brought to the stage. But what did you learn from him, and how did that affect your life, and how did that affect your career, meeting Doug?
Well, I learned some basic illusions, how to make a car disappear, how to make an elephant disappear.
Some basic,
Wow.
the ones you buy at the magic shop.
Yeah, exactly. One little technical thing here, I know you're going to edit this. I'm not switching to speaker view when I speak. So I'm not, it's always on Ron. Was that your plan?
It's okay because it's different for all of us. Because that's
Oh,
not the setting I have. So yeah, it's different for
But
all
when
of
I
us.
speak, I don't see my thing get highlighted.
I'm in charge, and the squares bounce around with a light yellow frame around it whenever whoever's visual, and when you're speaking, you're that guy.
Okay,
Don't
great.
worry,
I'm
everything's
not
fine.
seeing it, but that's fine.
Okay, now everything's
Ron,
fine.
I don't
promise.
blame you. I would put it just on me. So I just put mine just on me.
I don't see any of y'all.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure. So, yeah, so I learned a lot about performing and magic tricks and illusions and kind of the back behind the let me start again. Working with Doug was an amazing experience. I learned some secrets of huge illusions, not just a card trick, but how to make cars disappear. And
Yeah.
that was just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I do have a question about that. If I can dig in there,
Sure.
when you say you're a magician, do you, as you learn quote unquote magic, do you decide, oh, I want to be this kind, like were you already sort of knowing what your niche or specialty was, or did you learn that through the years? How does that decision get made?
I consider myself a storyteller. So I'm much more an intimate one-on small group kind of magician. I'm not the big stage guy who does the big illusions. I like to share a story and have the magic
Weave itself in with the story.
Right. So, for example, just this last Saturday, I was at the Magic Castle with some friends from Idaho. They had come down to town. I go, you got to get to the castle. And we got John to give us a private show.
Oh, that'd be great.
John turns his back, goes into the corner against the wall. He says, write down on this piece of paper the first boy you ever kissed, to my friend's wife. And she goes, what? He goes, just write it down. I'm not looking. I'm over in the corner. She writes it down. He goes, rip the page off, fold it up, and just hold it to yourself. And he turns around and he goes, he just nailed it. She, for the next 4 hours that night, was, how does he know who I kissed? How did he know it was Tony? I can't believe it was Tony. She was stopping people in the magic house. This magician just told me who I kissed the first time. It was great. You blow people's minds, John. And
I'll tell you right now. I remember the first time I met John as well. Is he was telling me a story, and we were going on, and the card that was in my mind, he like opens his wallet and pulls the card out of his wallet 15 minutes later. And I'm like, how could you have possibly put the card that I had in my mind in your wallet? It was sitting in there it just, yeah, I like that. I like how you're saying the story as you interact with people and sort of blow their mind. Can I ask you one more detail about that? What makes a good trick? At the end of the day, are you looking to wow someone? Are you looking for them to try to figure out how you did it? Like, what do you want the experience to be for the person that you amaze?
I think it goes back to my definition of magic. We all, I think, have a definition of magic. Mine is the experience that you have as a spectator when one of your senses sees something or smells something that your brain doesn't understand. And it's really about making that connection with an audience member and leading them down a pathway of logic and then yanking the rug out.
You enjoy you enjoy, yeah.
I'm a good yanker, buddy. I'm a good yanker.
And you like the look on their face, the confused look on their face brings you joy.
Engineers are the most fun to do magic.
Yeah.
You get at the Magic Castle, being in Los Angeles, we have a lot of rocket scientists from
They're in my neighborhood. JPL's right down the
yeah,
street.
right. And so I'll have a table full of rocket scientists, and I do a piece of magic, and you look at them, and they're scowling, and their ears are turning red, and because they just don't get it.
And they need it explained. I guess people beg you for an answer, don't they?
You know, one of my favorite experiences at the castle a couple of years ago is I was sitting there just doing impromptu magic like I normally do, and Microsoft had rented a portion of the castle out for a holiday party, and it was the key senior leadership within Microsoft. And Bill Gates wasn't there, but some of Bill Gates' henchmen were there, and they're sitting at a table, and I'm doing magic. And after the show, they leave, and another member told me the story that as one of the members of the Microsoft team left, you overheard him say to the other, "Now I believe in magic." You know, and it was just one of those things that I didn't hear personally, but it just meant so much to me that I was able to affect someone who is such a logical thinker into accepting magic as what it is. It's an art form.
So now that we have the phrase, I believe in magic, your whole story is magic. So you're at Cal State Northridge, you're working in the theater department with Doug Henning, but your career takes a whole split. You end up going into computers.
Right, yeah. I was lucky enough in high school, went to a private school, so they had some money, so they had some computers in the late 70s, early 80s that I got really good with. And then in college, I was very politically active within the School of the Arts. And the dean of the School of the Arts had gotten a grant from Apple with 20 brand new color Macs. And he hired me to set them up because he didn't want the guys in the computer center who had never touched a Mac screwing with them. And so I got the confidence then that I could figure out computers. They didn't intimidate me.
Right. So
And
you go off out of college. Sorry.
Yeah, I met a woman who worked for a commercial production company in Burbank, and she asked me to come and take a look at her computer system. And I did, and they hired me, and now I have the majority of the commercial production companies in LA and some in New York as clients.
So you have a huge, successful cell phone computer business in the dawn of the computer age, right? And you're living life large, and you're successful just like your parents, but in your own path. How beautiful is that? And then what happens, John?
Then in 2002, I was diagnosed with an acoustic neuroma, as you mentioned earlier.
So explain to people what an acoustic neuroma is.
It's a tumor that grows on the nerve of the middle ear. There are three nerves in there. There's the balance nerve, the facial nerve, and the acoustic nerve. My tumor was on the acoustic nerve, which was causing me hearing issues, which led to balance and dizziness issues. And finally, I had to go get an MRI, and I was diagnosed with a pretty large tumor, 4.5 centimeters, just a little bit larger than a ping pong ball.
Wow.
And I walked into the doctor's office after.
How old were you?
Born in 65. This was 2002. So I'll let you do the math.
Okay. So my surgery was in 1971. So I was 6 years old because I was born the same year as you. So I was 6 years old when I had the same thing. Mine was on the facial nerve, and felt very fortunate that it didn't destroy the facial nerve. I know, I'm sure I took some damage to it, but they worked hard, and they said, boy, we were lucky when they got out of surgery. They didn't even realize it was an acoustic neuroma when they went in for the surgery to start. Then they were like, wow, I was very fortunate. So you get diagnosed with it. What happens from there, John?
Well, I got diagnosed. The surgeon told me that it was killing me by displacing my brainstem. So they scheduled me for a surgery a week after I was diagnosed. And it was to be a 12 to 14-hour surgery, ended up being almost a 17-hour surgery.
Wow.
And I remember waking up in recovery, very difficult to wake up because I had been under so many hours. But finally, I got cognizant enough to recognize people in the room, and my parents were there, and my dad was hovering over the bed, smiling and comforting me and saying, "Hey, you survived it, and everything's fine." And then I looked at my mom, who was standing back, and she had this look of horror in her face. I didn't quite understand until they showed me my reflection. And that's the first time I realized that they had paralyzed my face. Because I have full feeling. I don't know that it's paralyzed unless I look at a picture or look at a mirror.
Interesting. Wow. Wow.
Or I try to drink out of a soda can and it ends up on my shirt.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. So how did you deal with that emotionally at the time?
Well, the surgeon said that he had every expectation that the movement would come back. So I was hopeful until
Okay.
about 18 months when it hadn't come back. And they said, well, now it's long past the time it would come back.
So you've lost it. Okay. And what did that do to you?
Well, it really affected my self-confidence. I didn't like going out with people. I didn't like partying, especially with people who I knew me before the surgery. Because I didn't want them to feel sorry for me. I didn't want to have to explain what had happened. And I didn't want them to see me differently.
So you isolated.
I did. I focused on my business, which I could run from home. So it was challenging, and fortunately I had my business to focus on, and I had a close relationship with my parents. But after a while, I was lonely and I was bored, and I decided to turn to playing semi-professional poker.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have half of a poker face already built in, right?
Because
Oh
at
my
a poker
God.
table, no one cares what you look like; they just want your money.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would drive.
So how did that go?
I would drive down to Hollywood Park Casino 3, 4, 5 times a week to spend 4 or 5 hours playing poker, and it just wasn't fulfilling.
Were you good?
The relationships that I made there really weren't long-lasting relationships with people that I wanted to really socialize with.
Right.
So, and I wasn't very, it's not that I wasn't a good poker player. I wasn't willing to invest the time and the bankroll to play in the stakes that you can actually make some good money.
Yeah.
I was playing pretty low stakes.
Right.
But you were getting out of the house, and so it probably had some value
Oh,
to
of course.
you. Right. And so you decide that you're not ready to go all in on that, pun intended.
Pun intended.
And so what happened after that?
Well, I had won a very large jackpot, and I made myself a promise that that money would be my gambling fund. So I was playing with their money. And when that money ran out, I would reevaluate my gambling. And that money ran out about 10 years after I won the jackpot.
Wow.
And at that point,
Get your first magic trick. Watch this money go away.
yeah. And when that ATM card said no more funds, I somehow heard about the Magic Castle. That's one. I'd been there as a kid with my uncle, and I remember sitting in the back row of the close-up gallery, the most intimate space. My uncle said, if you work really hard and apply yourself, John, well, maybe one day you'll be performing for the guests in the close-up gallery. And I was probably 10, so that was 1975. And in 2014, that dream came true. So
Yay.
Yeah, it was a long time coming, but I decided at that point to join the Magic Castle.
So you went from it turning a hobby into a career, if you will.
Yeah, and that was it was still a hobby then.
Okay. And you decided to become good enough, which means if you're a member of the Magic Castle, good enough's not even the word, it's great. That you literally had to become a professional and be as good as you can be. It had to leave being a hobby. So I'm assuming all your free time was focused on becoming a great magician.
Yeah, there's multiple facets of being a close-up magician. You've got this sleight of hand skill. On the scale of 1 to 10, I would say my sleight of hand skill is a 4 or a 5. I don't do anything really difficult, but I do things that I do well enough that you're not going to see me flash something, or you're not going to catch it. What I spend most of my time is the relationship between me and the story and the audience.
Gotcha.
And making that connection.
Well, yeah. So it's not only the art of the trick, it's the art of the experience of the trick and the whole interaction.
Right.
I wrote that down. So let me project a little bit, but I'm assuming when you're a magician, there's a point where you go from practice to I'm now ready. And it's not I get it right 99 out of 100. It's 100 out of 100. Like your goal is to say, I will never mess this up, especially if you say you're up close. Like you have to have it pretty much perfect before you bring it out. Am I wrong?
Well, yeah, you're right, but that comes down to the problem solving skill set that I have. Shit happens. Excuse me, things happen, and from time to time, things won't go as planned. So I have to shift. I have to improv a little bit, and I have to turn that negative into a positive.
Yeah. Create a joke out of the safety net. Yeah, the safety net.
Absolutely.
Try being a juggler. You know how often gravity wins? It's constantly there.
And make it look like you meant for it to fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was wondering is, okay, like with Ron, I imagine, doing juggling and physical comedy type stuff, that, you practice all the time, but you're able to do it just for yourself because if you have to when you're practicing, because it's a skill of like, okay, learn not to drop this, learn not to fall off that, learn whatever. But when it's close-up magic, how do you do you practice on a friend or a loved one or what? Because I'm wondering, because it's like the flip side of what Ron does, where it's a big showy thing for potentially hundreds or thousands of people. So how do you practice something that's so complex that's intimate?
That's a really good question. My hands do what my brain tells them to do as far as the sleight of hand is concerned. So what I practice mostly is in my head. I'm constantly thinking of new routines, a new presentation or something. I'll see someone do a magic trick and I'll go, that gives me an idea on something that I want to do. Most of my magic practice comes right before I go to sleep, because that's when I'm so relaxed. I can kind of imagine putting together a routine and performing it. So I'm constantly working on new stuff in my head. And then when I
want to interrupt real quick. I want to interrupt. It's so amazing that you say that, because my best thoughts in routines and jokes and material come when I'm just waking up in the morning. So there's something that's accessing that creative side of our brain, I'm guessing, when you're in that state.
Or in the shower. I find
I do the
in
same
the shower.
thing.
The shower, I get a lot of great ideas.
Yeah.
Just relaxing and letting the warm water pulsate on my body, and it just kind of puts me in a place where I can be really, really, really creative.
Yeah. Airplanes work for me too, because you're isolated and alone long enough. And often, and lately in my backyard, in the patio furniture with a cigar and iced tea, and because we don't hear well, these new hearing aids, I can blast the music into my head. So I put on music, and then I'm able, for some reason, music puts me in a mood space that's really good for creating, because sometimes I can go months without any ideas at all. And then other times they just come all the time. And how does that work for you?
You know, I wanted to go back to Carl's question to finish that thought.
Yeah.
You know, I get to practice magic every time I meet someone outside. You know, I do a trick where I turn Monopoly money into real money.
Yes.
And so I'll walk into a store or a convenience store or a restaurant and make a joke to the server. You guys take Monopoly money, right? And I pull a wad of Monopoly money away and out of my pocket, and they kind of laugh and say, well, "What are you talking about?" And I'll say something like, "Oh, you don't take that or Discover, huh?" Okay, and then in front of their eyes, I turn that stack of Monopoly money into real U.S. currency, and then pull a $20 bill, hand it out, and pay for my meal with it.
Oh, and I bet they're pulling out that green little marker, checking it, making sure it's not counterfeit.
Absolutely. So, you know, I get to do magic for people. I carry, 3 or 4 tricks around with me wherever I go. And so I'm constantly practicing. I'm constantly working on new stuff.
Okay, so let's shift gears and kind of go off the skill and the art of magic and creation and that you're brilliant at. But let's get back into your story that now you're back at the Magic Castle and you're kind of shifting. You still have your other business, but you're deaf and paralyzed in the face. And how does that affect your magic walk as you're an amateur magician at the time, kind of working your way through? What's going on?
I had a friend magician tell me, give me a sage piece of advice. It was, "John, I love your magic. Just make it about the audience and not about you." And the light bulb went off. And I realized at that point that was what was missing in my act. So from that point on, I changed my act so that every magical moment happened when an audience member did something. And that, I think, caused the audiences to forget about my face and focused on the magic. And they were still curious. There was still this elephant in the room. Like, did he have a stroke? Does he have Bell's palsy? What's wrong? But they were able to look past it as soon as I made Monopoly money turn to real money or whatever the illusion was. But then I included it in my act. I start my act with a story saying, I had a brain tumor, it left my face paralyzed, but something happened to me when I was on the operating room table. I'm not sure what it was. Well, I was unconscious. All I know is I recovered. Well, I realized I had acquired some new skills. And then I pause. And the entire audience is literally sitting on the edge of their seats going, okay, he had brain surgery. What the heck happened to him when he was on that operating room? And I kind of look to my right and left and like it's this big secret. And I whisper, guys, I'm able to manipulate people's thoughts. And then I go on and do some mentalism where I read people's minds or implant suggestions. And all of a sudden you see that turns my deformity, my issue, into my superpower. Because without that surgery, I would not have been able to do that. I wouldn't have learned how to love myself once I accepted the facial paralysis is what the way it is. I wouldn't have learned how to turn that into an asset. And the audiences get that. They see someone who went through a traumatic experience, came out the other side, and it's very attractive. People are attracted to me that way because they want to learn how I did that, how I took my adversity and made it an asset instead, which really causes the audience to pay attention and really fall in love with me.
Well, you spent years not being in people's photographs at the
Yeah.
Magic Castle.
Over 10
You were
years.
ashamed. This, how you looked kind of was your identity. And so people would take photos and you would never be in the photo. What was the feeling behind that, and how did you change that in your life?
Yeah, exactly. I got rid of all the mirrors on my house because I didn't want to be constantly reminded that my face was paralyzed. And whenever an option to take a photograph, I'd shy away.
You literally got rid of all the mirrors in your house.
I did.
Wow. That's dramatic.
Because I didn't want to
So,
sit there or brushing my teeth staring at my paralyzed face.
Yeah.
So I just got rid of them.
Wow.
And that all changed in August of 2017 when I went to my first magic convention called Magic Live in Las Vegas. And I was amongst the greatest minds in magic, Penn and Teller and David Blaine and these great magicians. And I said, man, I want to remember these moments. So I asked if I could take pictures with these great magicians, and they had no problem taking pictures with me. And no, my camera roll was full of pictures of me standing next to the greatest minds in magic. And I got home and I started going through those. And as I was uploading them to my computer, and I realized if those magicians didn't mind taking a picture with me, what the heck was my problem?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was really the beginning of my healing moment, where I understood that my face didn't need to define me if I chose not to let it.
Yeah. Love it. So I hate projecting here with the question, but clearly being in magic sort of helped you change your mindset. I mean, have you often wondered if you wouldn't have gotten into magic, where you would be mentally, whether it was sticking with poker or something else? I mean, clearly something about the magic, the performing has been literally life-changing for you. Am I correct?
It is, but I performed as a kid. I performed in high school and college. So performing was I was always on stage, never shy to go in front of an audience and speak. As long as I was prepared, I wouldn't stumble over my words. I was an effective speaker. But what was keeping me from doing that was my self-conscious, being self-conscious about my face. And as soon as that I put that in perspective, I did a TED talk. I filmed this new documentary called John's Ultimate Illusion, which just wanted a best inspirational video of documentary of 2021, which I'm very proud of. And now I speak on the world's largest stages and help people put their adversity in perspective.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
You say you make it your superpower now. You took what was your negative and now make it your superpower. Give us a little more on that.
I'm able to inspire others by telling my story and showing where I was and where I become. A real quick story. There was a woman at the Magic Castle I was doing some magic for, and she was dressed all in baggy black clothes with a hat that reminded me of witch's hat. And I could tell she wasn't having a very good time. So I started doing some magic for her and her friends. And within 2 or 3 minutes, all of a sudden her posture changed. And she ditched the hat and she stood up straight. And I could tell for at least those moments, whatever baggage she brought with her to the castle was gone. And I completed my show. And they wanted more, so I shared the story. I had hid from cameras and mirrors for over 12 years, and I had learned through going to that magic convention that my face didn't need to define me. All of a sudden, she stood up, and she grabbed me to stand, and I did, and she gave me one of these hugs that you don't soon forget. It's like the hug you haven't seen your brother in 12 years kind of hug. And she shared the story about 4 years ago. she had a double mastectomy where she had the BRCA1 gene. And her mom, her aunt, and her sister all had their breast removed. And she was the last in the family to do that. And she understood after seeing my magic and hearing my story that she was hiding too.
Mm.
And she made her friends, herself, and me a promise that that would be the last night she would hide. And there is nothing more fulfilling to be able to be in the presence of a miracle where my story and my authenticity got through to someone who is going through something very traumatic in their life, and they were immediately recognized it and took action and decided and made that choice in that moment that they would stop hiding.
Wow. Pardon the pun, but what a great magic trick.
Yes, yeah, right. And John, you know, you truly fit our show Dream Up because you were dealt a pretty lousy set of cards in the middle of your life. Your life was going great. You totally got derailed. And now you've brought it back to make it your superpower and use it to help others. And you're really doing kind of your life's dream being, you're just one of the greatest close-up magicians I know, and I know a lot of them. So you got to see his documentary. Go to JohnKippen.com and you have the documentary on there. Is that right, John?
Yeah.
JohnKippen.com. Check him out. He's so worth seeing. Watch the documentary. Get inspired. Look, it just won most inspirational documentary at the LA Documentary Film Festival. That's a pretty big deal, brother. You inspire me daily. I'm proud to be your friend. We got to hang out some more for sure. Thank you so much for doing our show today, man.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, well, folks, we got to wrap it up. Thanks again to KBF 88.3 FM in Little Rock for putting us on the air. And thanks again to John Kippen, Todd Turner, and Ron Pearson for being part of the show. Until next time, I'm Carl Kozlowski. Thank you for listening and watching.
Dream up.
John?